All right, welcome back. It is almost 1 a.m. on this Thursday, and we are continuing to watch Hurricane Nicole make its way into our area.
Yeah, we have been anticipating its impacts and seen a lot of those impacts. Let's go back to Tom Terry, and then we're going to go out to Shannon Butler, who has really provided us right there in the Volusia County area some structures throughout the afternoon that are in jeopardy of falling into the ocean.
Yeah, and it's going to be a very rough, long night here. The storm, we just got our 1 o'clock update, and it does put the storm about 30 miles off of Fort Pierce, but I think we'll have such a broad center of circulation that we're going to move this whole center on shore between Fellsmere, Vero Beach, and Fort Pierce. They'll have to pick a landfall point, but generally between 2 and around 3:30 will be our official landfall point, probably closer to 3 or 3:30. But northwest a little faster now. Pressure still holding at 980 millibars, down a couple millibars from the last few hours. The center's about right here, okay? But this is the worst part of the storm, and that's what we're now starting to see coming in across from southern Brevard County and starting to pinwheel in a little bit now into Osceola County, and it'll only get progressively windier and squallier during the late night hours. And I talk about this as being kind of like a squall factory. On the north side of the storm, we're just generating these squalls, and they're coming on through, and where we get these bursts of heavy rain, here's one, here's one, here's one, they're just all over. That's where we're getting the hurricane force wind gusts coming through. Sustains about 50. The gusts are about 70 to 75, and we're starting to get more and more of those developing there. Getting pretty squally too across, and windier and squallier overnight and early in the morning. Same for Lake Nona. Same Orlando, Sanford, all the area will get progressively worse through the late night and early morning hours tomorrow. Daytona, New Smyrna, Palm Coast is going to be a very long night for you, and we're still getting coastal erosion problems because, again, Volusia was the hardest hit from a coastal standpoint from Ian just 6 weeks ago. This is the raw radar data, part of what we look at here behind the scenes, inside baseball, and this is the Melbourne radar. We've got 84 miles an hour. This is going to be slightly off the ground, probably about 800 feet or so off the deck, but your squalls take these winds aloft and kind of translate them down to the ground. So that's kind of what we've been dealing with Nick Papantonis and Shannon Butler and all the reporters out there in the field along the coast. Jeff Deal, they're all getting hammered by these strong gusty winds. So the track itself is going to bring it here to the south of Orlando. The center will be right here. It may actually be calm at 7 o'clock in the morning, give or take St. Cloud area, but this whole northern squall factory, as I'm calling it, I'm making up terms as I go, this is going to be moving in on the north island all the way through Lake County, the villages, and future track shows this very, very well. This is 2 a.m. This is the northern side of the eye of the. That's going to be hurricane force wind gusts, probably 80, 82 miles an hour. Cocoa Beach, just west of Melbourne and Palm Bay. This is the squall factory. This is also where we're going to see a better threat for tornadoes during the overnight hours. Not all of these will be spinning, but we'll have a few mixed in with the squalls. Daytona, Titusville, DeLand, Sanford, Orlando. And then we start getting the very bright of the storm, but very high from North Merritt Island, Titusville through Orlando, and our forecast model matching up pretty well with the hurricane center track. So the villages to land 5 o'clock in the morning, and then you can see the center of the storm here, and we have the northern part of what's left of a probably 5-mile-an-hour sustained wind. Metro Orlando all the way through Apopka. Here's New Smyrna. We're spiraling all this around and working it here to the west. So it's going to be a very squally early morning, mid-morning. The storm itself will be exiting left here 10 o'clock in the morning, and we're getting some fairly gusty winds and some fairly gusty. I'll just update. Let's see what it shows for max winds. Here's 1 o'clock in the morning, 75 Cocoa Beach. Let's see if we get any higher. 81, 59, 52, and getting stronger throughout the early morning hours for Metro Orlando. So I don't think we'll get a hurricane force wind gust necessarily in downtown, but we may get over 60 to 65. And before the winds start to slack off here in Kissimmee, you're probably also going to be upwards of 65, maybe 70 before the calmer part. It's going to be toward high tide in the morning with the onshore wind here. Here you see the calm center, guys, but it will be anything but calm for at least the next 12 to 14 hours long night watching this storm.
Your map is lit up in some colors I haven't seen before.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Tom, you know, I want to add one thing before. Brevard County did not have mandatory evacuations along the coast. Are the people that didn't leave that are right there on the ocean, they were tonight, or will they?
It's going to be a rough night. I think if you talk to, they probably, the noise and the uncertainty and the rattling and the banging and all of that. I remember when we had Francis back in 2004, our own Steve Barrett was over there, and that's Indialantic right now. They're getting wind gusts to 70. He actually was in a structure that was destroyed essentially, or right next to him was destroyed, and they were all saying, man, they sure wish they would not have stayed through that. Now, the winds with that storm were over 100. We're not going to verify that with this one, but I don't think I'd want to be there in the middle of all that. So.
And it's going to be relentless and long. It's one thing if it's a quick storm and you're like, okay, phew, we're done, but that's not the case here. Let's now go back to Brevard County.
There has been for much of the night watching that are just
teetering,
clinging on. She is live at Wilbur by the Sea, and Shannon, every time I go to you, the situation's worse.
Yeah, are about the same as they were when I saw you guys about an hour ago. This is what we have been looking at for the last few hours. These houses that are barely hanging on here after Hurricane Ian and now storm. You can see that you can see clear underneath some of these homes here. There is so much rain. I need to up here just a little bit so you guys can see over the wall here. You can see all we get up here has just piled up here. The tide has gone down now, so now you can see just a pile of what looks, garbage sitting there, but that's all pieces of people's homes. The fences are down, the sprinkler systems are broken, the roofs are coming off, the stucco is just being chipped away by the wind. This is not the only house. There's this house and a couple of houses, and then even further down, even more houses. We were told by the people who are out here, a lot of people have come down to look at these houses, that they watch palm trees go in. They've watched a lot of stuff just kind of be swept out to sea here. There is a lot of debris from these houses all over this area right here. There is a huge gully now underneath this house down here. You can see now that the water isn't coming up. Look at all the stuff piled up in there. That's concrete that is just smashed into pieces. There are wood pilings, all sorts of things down there that came from most of these homes. And then if you look over here, we're going to spin this light around over here for you, Carrie, but that was the seawall. Now we can get a little better look now that there's not all of that water. That was the seawall right there. You can see all of that like busted up concrete. That's where it was before Hurricane Ian and now this storm. There's just nothing left, nothing to protect any of these homes right here. I don't know, Carrie, we're going to spin around where we showed you a little while ago, all the debris on this side too that's just coming off of homes all along Wilbur by the Sea. There's just debris everywhere. And remember, the tide has gone out a little bit and they're still taking a beating over here on the coast. We do not know what this area will look like tomorrow. There's another round of high tide that will come during this storm, and that's why they evacuated so many of those buildings just south of us at Daytona Beach Shores, because they weren't sure, careful to step, Care, they weren't sure that 2 rounds of high tide, if those buildings wouldn't suffer more damage than they already have. So far, so good. At least these houses are hanging on, but we still have a long night ahead of us, and it will be interesting to see what happens here when we get here tomorrow morning. Greg, Martha?
Wow, that's intense. And we saw in just, you've been on with us for 4 minutes, and in that 4-minute period, you took another shot of clearly a high wind gust. Shannon, you have covered countless storms. You've been down in Fort Myers, you've been here, Charlie, Francis, and Jean. What's this storm feel like in terms of the differentiator, in terms of the wind that you're feeling right now? Is this intense or about what you expected? Again, tough to hear out there with all that noise, but again, as Carrie zooms in, we are getting now a look at the upper level of a house that's next door. Again, these homes are just some of the examples, and the one thing that we had in coverage of last week was we did a drive-by, and I've seen a lot of YouTube video of people that live on the beach when the beach has been closed. They're in Wilbur by the Sea, and then the next community down is Ponce Inlet, and just to the north of that is Daytona Beach Shores and then Daytona Beach. And that entire area, the seawall would be 8 to 10 feet, and the sand eaten away from where the beach is sitting right now.
And we saw in her live shot as the evening has gone on, just a little bit of that seawall, just portions of it.
Just a small little bit.
And the waves are just lapping over. And to me, what's telling is all the debris that is now in the ocean, whether it's coming in from somewhere or the ocean's pulling it, from all the homes that now are teetering, and it's crazy. It's crazy, and especially with what's going to happen in the hours to come.
All right, we have Jeff Deal in Cocoa Beach right now. He has provided us with also some imagery. And Jeff, tell us where you are and what you're feeling.
We're in Cocoa Beach, and we're feeling quite a bit of wind. I'm actually taking a little bit of a shelter. We're standing right next to a building over here, so we've got a little bit of shelter from the wind and the rain. But you might remember during my last live shot, I kind of jumped a little bit. I was a little startled by like a crashing noise, and I want to show you this is what actually fell off of the restaurant building where we're standing. The ceiling fan. I know these aren't really held up but by maybe one single bolt going through here, but this thing kind of crashed and came down to the ground, making a large clank right next to me. It sort of startled me, and that was when the wind was just really whipping out. The wind's down a little bit, but you can still see they're blowing pretty good out here. The wind's just basically straight across, just whipping the intersection here. Sheets of water blowing through there. In the last couple of minutes while Shannon was doing it, we saw a transformer pop out here and kind of make a little explosion with like a shower. It almost looked like fireworks like you might see out at Walt Disney World. But we have noticed also that a couple of the street lights have gone out in this area. But for the most part, power is on up and down the street. Just a lot of rain, a lot of wind, where up again, just really starting to whip out here. While we were standing and waiting to go live, it seemed very calm, and I thought this was going to be a different kind of live shot. It was kind of settling down a little bit for us, but now it's really to blow hard and whip right across the street that we've seen throughout the night. It keeps getting stronger and stronger, just kind of taking it up another notch every time we're back out here, it seems, doing a live shot. But a lot of people taking shelter. We have seen a handful of people driving by. You see one car here. We had a couple of guys drive by and start yelling at us a little while ago. But for the most part, people are staying inside and at least trying to stay safe and out of the elements here. And reporting live in Cocoa Beach, Jeff Deal, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
For everyone to be staying inside because those wind gusts are strong and nowhere.
Yeah, and a guy that has been there when it was calm and now it is not. Channel 9's Nick Pampantonis. He is live in Indialantic in Brevard County as well, just a more further southern drive where there are wind gusts that have already hit 70 miles per hour. Nick?
Yeah, it's the difference between a gust here and just the average wind that we've been experiencing for the past 2 or 3 hours. There is a noticeable difference, but it doesn't take away from what we were seeing when it's not at that 70-mile-an-hour mark, and that is kind of where it is at the moment. More the average speed, trees sideways, rain sideways. It is cold here too. That's I think something that every hurricane that we cover, we head to the car to heat up when we can, but this November hurricane, it's just like another degree of pain being out here. But here, we have gotten lucky so far. Indialantic, we know there's power outages to the south of us because we have seen the transformers blow in the sky. We know there are power outages to the north of us because we've also seen transformers blow. That's our kind of key indicator right there. But here at the park that we are at, the power is hanging in there. So whatever transformer is working for us right now is doing a really good job of that. Haven't seen any widespread reports of damages here. obviously a lot of people are indoors in bed right now and just not going out, thank God. So there's a lot of stuff that may be out there that we haven't yet uncovered. But so far, things here on the coast built strongly, built well, survived other storms, and so far that's what appears to be happening here. Some signs are struggling, and there are some trees, that are, again, leaning over more so than their branches. But it's just a story here of wind right now, and it's just that constant wind, as if the giant fan is on at high and it is not turning off. And every once in a while, somebody puts another fan out there to supplement it. Those are the gusts that we're seeing. Definitely seeing a direction change, too. I think that's also something worth mentioning, is that storm center moves closer to us. The direction that the wind is blowing is shifting. It was north-south earlier tonight, and it was east-west, and now it's kind of at a northeast to southwest direction, I suppose you might say. And so that's been something interesting. We haven't had to adjust our structure, thankfully, that we're under and hiding here under is big enough to where we haven't had to make that adjustment and shift around our stuff. But that is small bits of debris, the constant winds, the constant rain, to report, except for, again, those power outages, which is a good sign here. Especially with the wind speeds like they are right now, they are our first responders out that are trying to take cover. And we did. I was texting with you, Greg, earlier that we were talking at the time about the possibility for people to go out and commit some nefarious acts and some potential looting. I was actually at a hotel, and a worker was telling me that his wife caught somebody before the storm really got going testing their doorknob because they put their cars inside. And so we have seen police out here in Indialantic. There's, I think, 2 of them that have been patrolling this stretch, making sure no one's up to anything that they shouldn't be doing. We've gotten a few looks just by being at the park. But that is something as well as when they can, they are attempting to make sure no one's trying any funny business. And it is Brevard County. I mean, if you try funny business, you are asking for it out here. So hopefully that's a reminder to people as after the storm passes as well. Greg? And Mark? All
right, yeah, and Tom is known for rolling up the sleeves, taking the jacket off. Nick may be known for losing a hat when the wind gets a little bit stronger, but thank you. And again, you see that intensity, and those guys have a nice block, a wind block there that's keeping them protected.
And that's smart.
But Ray and Nick are there, and it's fun to listen to Tom in the background in Severe Weather Center 9 when our reporters are there, because he said, I think the wind is blowing in this direction. Tom goes, that's right, that's exactly what it's doing. Good job by Nick giving us exactly what is happening right now in Brevard County and Indialantic.
I just want to let my producer know that my earpiece being on air for so long died. So if you're going to talk to me, you're going to have to tell him something and get it to me. And so hopefully we can, Josh, we can change this out. Right now we want to go to Channel 9's who is live in Sanford right now. And the last time we checked with you, you were in Lake Monroe. And then the next time you were more in downtown Sanford. Where are you now?
Still downtown Sanford right now, Martha. It's much 10, 15 minutes ago. We were getting some wind gusts throughout this area, heavier rain, I would say, at that time. Now it's pretty quiet over here. Lake Monroe, though, not quiet at all. When we were over there, there was actually a Sanford police officer came up to us and said, this parking lot that you're in is actually flooding. So we made the decision to move, if you want to call it. So, again, much calmer over here, but boy, we could really see, the wind just pushing that water into the parking lot there, and you could see that he was exactly right. It was going to flood at some point because the water really just has no place to go. And what we saw during Hurricane Ian area is they were dealing with a lot of flooding as well. So it remains to be seen right now what this area is going to deal with as far as Nicole. Right now, really not too has happened, but it's still early. I just have no expert areas. However, I can tell you from being, kind of in the heart of downtown right here, those wind gusts earlier that we were seeing when we it did, knock like a sign down the street, and I was chasing after it. The winds were whipping up here, Greg and Martha, for a while, but right now everything's calm. So of course we're going to keep you updated as things continue to change. For now, back to you.
And it's going to be a long, rough night for folks like Ashley who are inland. We think it's relatively calm now. That is not the case. This storm is now, as Tom likes to say, hauling the mail, and it's making its progress across Central Florida. You see a lot of strong winds, and that heavy band rain is coming our way here in downtown.
He also says it's going to be hammer time.
Yeah.
Hunker down and hammer time.
There's a live, you can see the entire state of Florida, basically, at least from, Flagler Beach, Jacksonville Beach, all the way down to Fort Myers, really, Vero Beach, Stewart, all feeling the effects of Hurricane Nicole. With our continuous coverage, we're not going anywhere. We're going to stay live as the storm continues to just wreak havoc on our coastline and inland. We'll be right back. All right, our reporters that are along the coast are now feeling hurricane-force winds. Nick Pampantona said that the wind gust he just experienced was the strongest yet. Tom thinks that that would be our first indication, something over 75 miles per hour, which would be that Cat 1.
Right, Tom?
Yeah, right now, I mean, we're getting minute-by-minute analysis from Nick out in the field right now.
Yeah.
It depends on whether his hat is still on his head or not, because he lost his hat earlier. But you can see some of the wind gusts here at the top of the hour. 61 in Cocoa Beach. We had 73 at Playa Linda up here. So we're starting to get the strongest wind field approaching the coast, and the storm is still about 40 miles southeast of Brevard County. And well away from the storm, it's still 45 up in Daytona. You can see that's Flagler Beach Pier, well to the north there, and they're going to be getting the higher tide cycle heading into early tomorrow morning as well. As our camera kind of pans back and forth there, that is going to be an area that has already sustained some coastal issues there, and I believe that is in the Cocoa Beach area. That's Indialantic, so that is Nick Papantona's area,
right.
And with very strong winds and rain right there. And the storm itself about 26 miles, we think, away from landfall. Depends on where they call landfall, but it's going to be south of Brevard County. But the northern side, the worst weather, is what's moving in now, and will stay this way all night along the coast and eventually start moving farther to the west and be over Metro Orlando. And I'll just read through you some of the wind reports here. 73 miles an hour. And Nick thought the winds were out of the northeast. They are indeed out of the northeast. There's one of our tower cams. That's I-95. That reminds me a lot of hurricanes we've tracked in years past, where things are blowing literally sideways on the road and not very many people out there. That big rig is, I'm sure, rocking back and forth because it's got a good crosswind there coming in off the ocean. But all these indications are very close to hurricane force right there along the east coast. And I was tracking the speed of some of the rain squalls with this. They're moving at 85 miles an hour here on the north side of the storm, and we're not getting all that wind down the ground, but that's how fast they're moving. The farther north we go, they're moving at about 60 to 65 miles an hour. And there you can see the surge still coming up along the Flagler Beach Pier. We still have a pretty good squally rain from Poinciana through Kissimmee. The worst weather, though, for the I-4 corridor and anywhere across the central part of Central Florida will be after 4, 5, 6, 7 o'clock in the morning. So we still have several hours to go. It will likely wake you up, though, early on in the morning. And our radar tour continues. By the way, we're also simulcasting until 4 a.m. on WDBO 107.3 FM and also AM 580. If your power does go out, you get the old-fashioned radio, crank it up. As we kind of go through our different cameras, we're getting hurricane-force wind gusts along the coast right now. Pearson, Crescent City, Palm Coast, a very squally storm. So landfall, I say between 2 and 3. It's probably going to be closer to 3 now, and this will be in the Fort Pierce area. But the strongest winds are on the north side, where we're going to have it rolling into Palm Bay, into Melbourne, into Cocoa, into Titusville, Cocoa Beach, and eventually coming right through. In fact, we're likely to get the center right near Kissimmee and St. Cloud at 7 o'clock in the morning. So it may actually be relatively quiet over central Osceola County at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, but it's going to be not so quiet north of there in downtown Orlando. And I think this could exacerbate some of the flooding threat here with some of the heavier rain bands that will be coming in across Metro Orlando. So that's just kind of a quick tour of some of the guys that
That's impressive. And again, as you said, you can listen to us simulcast if you're going to lose power. That's a good way to do it. Or if you just want to listen, you can also say, hey, Alexa, play WDBO, and it does a good job of playing that radio station for you over your Alexa device if you want that next to you in bed. You're just going to have that on in the background. But be here through the night. We have generators running. No power outage is going to take us down. We'll be here for you.
We're here. And we want to go right now to Channel 9's Demi Johnson, who's live in Daytona Beach Shores. We've been checking in with you and your photographer all evening long. What's the latest from where you are? I know you had a lot of wind.
Still the case right now, but I was just telling Dave, my photographer, that it really doesn't feel as windy as it did when we talked to you guys about an hour and a half ago. It's definitely still windy, but then it was hard for us to even stand up. It's not really like that anymore, so I'm sure just from listening to Tom, that's gonna change soon. Let me show you that building. Literally all afternoon, it is still hanging on, but it does look more separated. The bathroom section right looks more separated from the other part of the building now. I don't know if it looks down there kind of, I don't know how well you can show that, Dave. It's dark, but it looks like it's kind of caught in the sand, and maybe that's what's keeping it from breaking off totally. And just as I said, it wasn't as windy. There goes a big gust coming right at us. That's kind of how it's been all night, off and on, gusty. But as far as the debris and the building and the things down here, it's kind of really at a standstill. It all pushed up earlier when it was super windy, and now you can see it's all kind of just piled up right there, not really moving around so much. So I don't know what it's going to look like out here in another hour or two, but for right now, it's honestly calmer than it was when we checked in with you an hour and a half ago. You don't really see as much water pushing up into the street. You don't see, there's a little bit of the sideways rain, but not as much as there was earlier. And again, talking about power, all of the lights seem to be on here, so that's a good sign so far. But I guess we'll just check back in with you guys in about another hour and see if things are different. So for now, back to you guys.
Thanks so much.
As you want. We, again, love. We just don't want to put our crews into too much of a situation. It's going to be a long haul. This is not a short burst. We also are going to provide that coverage throughout the night and in the morning as well. When we start to have that first light, don't forget the sun will come up earlier than it did a week ago, simply because the daylight saving times end. We're on standard time now. So again, by 6 o'clock in the morning, so in about 5 hours or so, we should really start to see what has happened.
We want to see what's happening right now live in St. Cloud, and we're going to turn things over to Channel 9's Chantel Navarro. And what do you have for us, Chantel?
Hey, Martha, things are picking up pretty considerably here. The winds are stronger. If you take a look right over there, look at that tree right there. It's shaking a lot more than what we saw earlier today. So a little more action here and over. Again, I'm at Lakefront Park. This is the marina right over here in St. Cloud. You're looking at East Lake Toho. The boats over here bobbing a lot more. You can see all of that kind of moving around just a little bit more. The water picking up more right there. As the rain goes, you know, it's not coming down too hard. It's really just the wind right now that's giving us the most kind of trouble right now. There's a little bit of water accumulating. Of course, we know this here at East Lake Toho, all of this water went up way high after Hurricane Ian here in Osceola County. Got about 15 inches of rain. That was just 6 weeks ago. And of course, South Florida Water Management, they came and they were pumping this water out. They were doing half an inch a day. That was after for about 2 weeks to kind of get all of this water down, and it is accumulating once again, rising. It's been rising little by little. Haven't seen much of a difference in the past, I want to say 2 hours here, but it's sure coming down. We also checked with power outages. So far, it looks like all is well on that front, but of course we'll keep you guys updated. Live in St. Cloud, Chantel Navarro, 209 Eyewitness News.
Kind of the calm before the storm as it comes inland. Osceola County, as Tom mentioned, we can see some of those bands probably 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. But the folks that are getting hammered right now are in Brevard County.
That's right. We want to go back to Channel 9's Nick Papantonis, who's live in Indialantic and Brevard. And Nick, it seems like your camera's a little foggy, but we know that you are next to a big fortified building, so you and Ray, your photographer, are safe. But you've really had some serious wind gusts where you are.
Yeah, I want to underscore, I should say, this, even though we're in this kind of open air pavilion here, it's doing a really good job of redirecting most of the wind, not all of it, and almost all of the rain around us. So we're not feeling what you can see back behind me. Let's just take a look at those trees and the lights. They're giving us a really good perspective of how strong the wind is, and you can see the rain kind of coming across your camera screen right now. This was gust level maybe an hour ago. Now this feels like a sustained level here. I can't back it up with numbers where I'm at, but that's just observations. This is now wind that is getting stronger and not quitting. It's this constant flow of just water and wind from the left side of your screen to the right. Everything in this area is for the most part hanging in there right now. We haven't seen any trees go over. We haven't seen anything on this playground break. I just took a peek out at the road next to us, and just looking up and down the street, of course, I can see power outages to the south of us and to the north of us. We're good right where we're at, but I didn't see any sort of building damage just in this immediate area in our line of sight. Of course, there is a giant stretch of beach that we are responsible for covering here in this part of the county that we don't have eyes on. This is all the buildings that are right next to the sand and the waves, just the buildings in general. I know there's a sort of a trailer park down south of us that at least on satellite view looked full, but that's an old picture. So these are areas that we're going to have to get eyes on as the sun comes up and as the wind dies enough to let us move, because right now we don't want to do that. So, again, this is the middle of the night. There is nobody out on the road, thank God. You guys made a joke earlier about how I'm struggling to hang on to this hat. I've given up on the hood. This is what was supposed to keep the hat in place, but that's just not happening anymore. And so, again, the difference here from when maybe I saw you 20 minutes ago is that what used to be a gust is now what we're seeing constantly. And the breaks in between the gusts that we had earlier tonight, those are just gone. So that is the update on the situation here. And we're just going to keep praying that the power holds out so we get you these pictures that we've been enjoying for most of this night. Live in Indialantic, Nick Papantonis, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
Melbourne Village there, Nick, not too far from the airport. There's a large tree down on top of a home. He talked about power outages. As I look at the state of Florida, these are the ones reported. St. Lucie County, which is to the south of Brevard County, which is where that eye of the storm was expected to track into. Right now, they are reporting 7,926 customers. You move up to Indian River County, 2,200. Then in Brevard, where Nick is, the number has now jumped up to 4,100. Our customers are without power. The coastline starting to jump up as well. So we're starting to see what was anticipated, what was forecast, and that was for power outages to happen in the overnight hours, Martha, and that is what is happening right now.
Yeah, and our guys obviously calling it right pretty much down the beach. This was going to happen more progress, and we want to bring you up to speed on some things right now about Central Florida school districts keeping kids out of the classroom for their safety.
Of course, this is something that we do. Many of the schools, in fact, are used for shelters typically, so it's kind of a double way of using those facilities. Every single Central Florida school district staying closed today. It's Thursday, and at this point, only Marion County schools plan to reopen tomorrow. Most were scheduled to be off anyway, Martha, because Friday is Veterans Day.
And we just got some updated power outages from FPL. In Brevard County, at one point, around 15,000 customers, or 15,000 out without power right there. About 13,000 of those have been restored. In Flagler County, FPL says it has restored about 1,600 customers after 1,700 lost power. And in Volusia, the company says it's restored 1,700 of the 2,000 customers who've lost power at one point tonight. Again, these are just FPL customers.
And the one thing that's a little different than maybe what we're used to, breaker switch at your house, they can restore power in these communities where it's been updated, where it's not a power line on top of it or a transformer box that's blown. So there is some technology advantages there as well.
Brevard County Emergency Management is now recommending evacuations for some folks in Cocoa Beach. Again, they've been telling folks throughout the day, if you live on a barrier island, in a mobile or manufactured home, those in low-lying or flood-prone areas, and those with special medical needs to leave. The wind speed sustained about 45 miles per hour. Cocoa Beach Fire Rescue and police say that they've been evaluating calls on a case-by-case basis. And the good news is we've seen most of our live shots, people aren't out and about clogging up the roadways or being looky-loos. So if there is an emergency, those rescue personnel and FPL crews, if they need to get out, can get out.
A lot of folks count on our bus lines, links, and of course the Sunrail situation once Disney reopens and other places. But we can tell you that those are going to remain closed as they want to keep the roads clear for emergency situations. Of course, safe with high winds. Employees with links and bus operators are monitoring the storm. They'll make sure that the community is safe, and we'll get you updated on Hurricane Nicole and when these lines will be back open. So count on the also provide services to those with special needs as they can.
And Brightline has suspended all of the construction in Central and South Florida through Orange, Indian River, St. Lucie, Martin, Palm Beach counties. Those are all in South Florida. All of the scheduled projects will be postponed until Nicole passes through. Those railroad crossings are also closed in Melbourne and in Vero Beach. High-speed testing will resume next Friday, November 18th, and will run until Sunday, November 20th.
You know, FEMA set up shop here because of Ian, and now it will serve double purposes. Representatives from FEMA told us there are nearly 2,500 crew members on the ground right now ready to help you, and many of them have been here since Ian.
We've certainly been tested. My team has been deployed since September 23rd. We were here before Ian, and now we're back. We were in other parts of the state responding to Ian and helping start the recovery there. Yes, we've certainly been tested, but I'll tell you something. We have FEMA has over 2,500 staff in the state of Florida at the moment. That is a very, very large number for an incident such as Ian, and those staff are also available to respond to Nicole also. So we're very well prepared.
Yeah, we spoke to a representative from FEMA earlier telling us about the help that will be available for people who do have damage from the storm once it passes.
We already have disaster recovery centers that are open. They are for the safety of our staff. They are closed at the moment until the weather clears. Once that happens, they will open up again. So if there is a declaration for Nicole, President Biden signed an emergency declaration that supports the state in protecting lives and property. And if they sign a major disaster declaration for Nicole, then they'll be able to visit those disaster recovery centers also after they register and get that support. So we'll be back up and running as soon as the wind ends and the rain clears.
FEMA's job is not to make people whole in terms of giving you money for everything that's damaged, but they are there as a stopgap until the insurance money can come in. So FEMA is important. FEMA will give folks some money that have been damaged to get them through until the insurance money comes in. Now, the reason that Nicole is really going to cause the biggest problem in terms of the possibility of structures falling into the ocean overnight is because of what Ian did, that deterioration. And I've talked about how much I don't know, I guess the dunes and the seawalls were really hurt by Ian. And I've got some video, and it'll show you just how high the beach used to be and how high it is as the storm approached. Look at this. This is from a viewer, and this is drone video. Now, take a look. This is recent video of Daytona Beach and Daytona Beach Shores, and this puts into perspective what Ian did. And that's what we're working with here in Florida. So as this storm is hitting, it already is got a huge advantage on these homes, and you can see that they've already been undermined in many of the areas. They tried to fortify them. There simply wasn't enough time. The storm really came ashore 6 weeks ago, and I wanted to show this video because in perspective of what we keep talking about how there is no dune to protect these structures, there is no seawall to protect these structures. This video I found from one of our viewers was really the best example of that, Martha.
And I don't know if we can pop that up again, but to see it's just home after home teetering on the edge, and there is nothing. I mean, being a homeowner, how tragic is that? And you have to sit and watch this because you know that there is nothing you can.
this, Martha. These are just like, what, 5, 6, 7, 8 structures you're seeing in this video. This is all the way from parts of Daytona Beach all the way down to Ponce, which takes you to Wilbur by the Sea, Daytona Beach Shores, and right there to the causeway, the intercoastal causeway area where, again, you know, we talk about, you know, the shark attacks and this sort of thing, and then it jumps over to New Smyrna. And so this is structure after structure that has been already undermined, and no time to... During the winter, once we can calm things down, they'll pump sand out of the ocean, Army Corps of Engineers and others, and they'll fortify and bring that dune back up because that's our greatest protection.
But in the meantime, so come tomorrow morning, wonder what will happen to those homes.
I'm afraid to see it, but we'll all see it with first light.
We will.
It's not going to be pretty.
And we want to go right now live to our Jared Oliver. He is not covering sports for us tonight. He is on the news side of things. You're live out at UCF, Jared. We know that kids who there is no school, but kids who had nowhere to go stay in their dorms and will be safe.
Yeah, it is business as usual over here. No power, parking deck, and some of the buildings that they use as well throughout the university. Business as usual. About 30 minutes ago, we did have some rain bands. Rain bands. It's sort of calmed down out here a lot, actually. Every now and then we'll feel a little gust of wind, but so far so good out here. We did see a few cars out here earlier. I think it was just people passing by, maybe going to their dorms or their local apartment or wherever the case may be. But yeah, it is business as usual over here. We did see a few bushes that you can see right here. They were kind of swaying to the left and to the right, more so to the left of your screen. But it is pretty calm out here. We did feel that heavy rain and the rain bands as well, but it is pretty calm out here for now. I'm sure it'll pick up as the night continues to go on, or the morning, if you will. Greg and Martha.
And as relates to sports, I just want to bring it up because maybe you don't know this, but the Magic played earlier tonight.
And people were there.
Yeah, they beat the Dallas Mavericks, which was surprising without one of our best players, Paolo Banchero. And as you know, I'm a sports person, sports fan, but it was interesting that they decided to play. Was it risky? Possibly, but there are no reports of anyone being hurt going home or anything like that.
We love our Magic. We're glad they won.
Yeah.
All right, well, we're going to have more right after this quick break. Stay with us. Welcome back. We are, 1:45 on this Thursday morning as we continue to watch the strong effects as Nicole gets closer to our viewing area, and we have our crews up and down the coast and inland, keeping track of what you need to know and how to stay safe during this time.
Brevard County right now is getting peppered. Let's go back over to Severe Weather Center 9 with George and Tom over there. The cameras tell the story. All of your wind gauges tell the story. And Brevard County, again, not a mandatory evacuation, but there's some folks on the coast tonight, Tom, I can promise you, as you mentioned, are saying, man, I should have got out of town.
Well, we're just grateful this isn't any stronger of a storm, but this is going to verify as a hurricane. We're getting wind gusts now up to or very close to hurricane strength. And George, we were just talking about this. We're probably winds over 60 right now at Port Canaveral.
Yeah, and they cause these palm trees to sway in the breeze. A lot of people trying to go to bed. So not only is this kind of frightening when you're in it or when you're in your house and this is outside, but when you're trying to sleep in this, it can be extra frightening. This is also live video from down the coast, Indialantic, where earlier we had wind gusts of 70 miles per hour. And, you know, every time we go to this shot, Tom, it looks like that. These trees are not only blowing, they're bent over.
Yeah, so this is pretty gusty. This is what a hurricane looks like. And fortunately, again, this is only a Cat 1, not a 2 or 3 or higher. That is Flagler Beach Pier. And they're out their high tide cycle now. But, George, by the time we have daybreak in the morning, we're going to have problems there.
Yeah, so what's interesting, I estimate
There's the Cocoa Beach Pier for you guys.
This is Cocoa Beach. The wave run up there, and it's not even high tide, is incredible. This is Cocoa Beach Pier, and we've been watching the waves just pummel that pier.
You can see it just come through,
Yeah, so hopefully, I mean, we're hoping for as little damage as possible, but we have several high tide cycles to go through, and the waves will continue through tomorrow.
So we'll pull this full screen because we want to show you some of the wind gust reports we've had so far. And this is, again, with the storm still not having made landfall. George will pull this up here on, I got it for you here.
There we go.
This is going to be the live wind gust right now. The highest wind gust so far, Playa Linda, just below hurricane force, 73 miles an hour. Indialantic at 70.
Yeah, important to know that this is a tower on Playa Linda Beach, so winds can be a little higher up. But Port Canaveral, Sebastian Inlet, 60 to 70 mile per hour winds. Melbourne and Patrick Space Force Base also looking at winds pretty strong. Look at the 64 mile per hour wind gust right now in Cocoa Beach.
Yeah, I just updated through here. So we're going to probably verify hurricane strength, if not around 80, I think later on tonight here, George, as the storm continues to gain some latitude. And it's right now very close to making a landfall. And you were saying around Sebastian Inlet, maybe just a hair south?
Yeah, you know, let's just take a look. A couple things I want to point out here. The reason why Brevard County is experiencing everything, well, it's the closest and it's on the coast, so you have that basically unobstructed wind headed in, and there it is right there.
The squall factory, as I'm calling it.
Squall factory.
Yeah, we've got these heavy squalls that on the north side of the eye, and this is where some of the stronger winds are going to be too, George, and they're just kind of pinwheeling out here,
exactly.
So it's well ahead of the storm.
Yeah, and as we know with hurricanes, they don't always travel in a straight line. They wobble, they curve, but we're getting to the point where we can almost project this right towards Sebastian Inlet because we are so close. Still may be an hour to 2 out, but landfall is imminent. It will happen soon, and the eye wall will spread all the way over Brevard County, Osceola County, Orange County as well. Look at the eye wall. It is brushing. It's actually starting to brush Sebastian and Vero Beach, Fort Pierce, Port St. Lucie,
so this will be roughly the center, okay? And it's got to be when that center crosses the coast that we have landfall. But it's starting to, the northern eye wall, starting to make landfall here along the coast, Vero Beach.
And one of the things we pointed out, the eye wall is now like 70 miles wide.
Yeah,
that's huge. To put things into perspective, you would expect maybe 20, 30, 40 miles perhaps.
Maybe if we had an eye wall replacement cycle, it would double, but this is pretty big for just a normal hurricane.
Exactly, yes, and a weak hurricane, or not, I don't want to say that, but a Category 1 hurricane. But yes, definitely strong winds. This is out of rain band still all over Brevard County. They're moving into Orange County and Osceola County and kind of weakening as they have spent a little time over land. But I've also actually we estimated rainfall totals. We'll get to that in a second here.
Yeah, but every time we see one of these little puff balls that pop up, these are wind gusts around 60, 65, 73 is the highest we've seen so far. And in the Melbourne Village area right over here, we already have reports of a tree on a house. So we're going to have more, unfortunately, of these kind of scattered damage reports as the strongest winds are just now approaching the coastline. And it's going pretty good to the north.
Yeah, and actually, just where we were looking at, these are where the showers are actually tracking at 80 miles per hour.
Yeah, we were tracking this. I'm like, how fast are these rascals going? They're 80 miles an hour. That's how fast they are up in the clouds, and we're not quite getting all that wind at the ground yet, but we're going to verify that later tonight. And it's also going to be hammering right here along the Indian River coming into Merritt Island.
It really is. These quick batches of rain that are moving in. They're coming into Orlando. We just checked in with Jared Oliver. He said the rains were picking up and then they were settling down because these rain bands are moving into Orange County now and also Osceola County. So they're hitting many other neighborhoods besides Brevard County.
Yeah, go ahead. I'm going to pull up the actual model because we want to take you through this hour by hour tonight because it's going to be an interesting night, to say the least. So this is going to be our forecast model track here. We're both reaching for the buttons. There we go. So here's 1 o'clock in the morning. So we're essentially just about within the last hour or so. It continues to move in from Cocoa Beach. Here's 2 a.m. So a pretty good approximation of what we're seeing right now with some of the strong wind bands in Cocoa Beach. Centers making landfall. And some of the heavier winds, George, 5 a.m. right in Metro Orlando.
Yeah, first thing in the morning, people waking up, and the heaviest part of the hurricane, waking it up to it. You try to get your dog out for a walk, and you're in an eye wall.
Yeah,
All
that's
right?
going to be surreal. I've never experienced it myself, but you may wake up in the Winter Haven just south of Kissimmee and actually have some filtered sun coming through and like, yeah, I don't know what the big deal is. Well, the big deal is going to be north from Altamont Springs, Orlando, or toward Apopka and the Lake County.
And think about why that is. Remember, you kind of have a ring of wind here. In one direction, they're going north, maybe 70 miles per hour. Other direction, the other direction, and so they have to change directions. And in order to do that, you have to calm down. You have to go to zero, right?
There's a lot going on, and we're all going to have some winds here, especially closer to daybreak, guys, here in downtown Orlando. Worse is on the way. We're watching it.
Yep, it is one of the weirdest feelings in the world, not to be reporting on another hurricane 6 weeks later. That is weird in and of itself, but being in the middle of an eye. I've done it before, and you look up and you're like,
It's all calm. You're like,
this is so bizarre. And some folks will have that experience in the morning.
And right now, we want to continue to follow our reporter, Nick Pampatonis, who is in Indialantic in Brevard County, where there have been gusts of 70 miles per hour. And Nick, you know, you've been taking a little bit of a battering every time we go to you with all the wind gusts and the rain.
Yeah, we'll see if this hat is still with me by the end of the night here, because it's gotten dicey a couple of times. So what's even more dicey is, again, the wind. We've shown you this picture over and over again, and every time it helps paint the picture of how this storm is changing, right? Because we started with the trees would be sideways, then they'd be up again, some stronger gusts, and then all of a sudden, now we're in that where we're getting those 70-mile-an-hour winds, or at least what feels like those 70-mile-an-hour winds, pretty regularly here. This is actually, just by looking at it, the lighter side of the winds that we've been experiencing over the last hour. It seems like it's taken a pause, and there it comes right back there. There we go. What I can say here is we're also feeling like we're on a little bit of borrowed time with our power supply. You can see these nicely lit up playground and park behind us that we've been taking advantage of for the last 3 or 4 hours here. We just saw another transformer go to the north of us, so there goes the hat. So there. We are aware that the area is continuing, the power outages are continuing to grow. The area is continuing to get darker in that sense, and we're fortunate here that the transformer that's keeping us going is still hanging in there. But we do, at this rate, I wouldn't be surprised if that didn't last. So far, again, you've mentioned some reports of damage. Again, because we're on the coast and everything is built so well. Luckily, things in our line of sight remain intact. Police are out and about still. Indialantic police have crews out and about making sure people are staying safe. We just saw them checking a business right across the street from us about 5 minutes ago. So they were out there with somebody making sure they were being safe. So just shout out to them for doing their work that they're doing here. Otherwise, though, again, yeah, the wind is just, it's not the eye wall here, but it is a wall of wind. And it's just been nonstop, blowing things over. So far, again, everything is continuing to maintain. But we do have debris down. Those smaller branches have been coming down for the last few hours. And it looks like some bigger branches, just from looking back there, they might be hanging down a little bit more than they were beforehand. So we are, this is not letting up. We are not moving just for safety purposes. We're going to stay right here, and as long as the power lets us, continue to bring you those pictures there. Keep an eye on the wind and what you guys might be looking forward to in a certain sense as the storm moves closer to that Orlando region. So for now, live in Indialantic, Nick Papantonis, Channel 9 Eyewitness News.
All right, Nick, thanks so much.
All right, we're going to continue to follow all of our crews that are around the coast right now, and the coast is nowhere near clear. We're also going to take you back up to Volusia County, where we again saw houses teetering on the brink of falling into the Atlantic Ocean, something that was actually predicted by our Volusia County Sheriff Mike Chitwood earlier today. We'll be right back. It is almost 2 a.m. You're watching WFTV and Eyewitness News continuing coverage of Hurricane Nicole.